There is a younger population of Iranians who think that their country should be administered differently. Their economic problems, the remnants of the Pahlavi regime, and we are being told that one of the sons of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi is actually one of the prime movers of the demonstrations that are taking place in Iran now. Whether true or not, we do not know. We are being told that the Israelis are also somehow exercising some control via an invisible hand. We are told that the Americans are also present, and in the case of the Americans, they cannot escape indictment because their President Trump is saying, you touch any of the demonstrators and we are locked and ready to bomb you. So that is the situation in which Iran finds herself, and as we speak now, they are on high military alert. The Iranians cannot sell their oil freely. The Iranians cannot access the markets freely. They cannot borrow, and their currency has been devalued in a manner that has never been seen in many parts of the world. And that has made the people begin to rise up. And they are rising up on a number of issues. They are saying we want greater freedoms. They are saying the economy is so bad that we want to see improvement. But the reality is that the economy cannot improve. And one can see that in the very reconciliatory messages from both the spiritual leader or the Ali Khamenei and President Massoud. The demonstrations have been going on for almost 3 weeks, but they are not coming out with violent language, if you may. And one of the things that they are now doing is to externalize the problem. They are saying, we know we have domestic problems, but we can see the hand of the United States of America. We can see the hand of Israel. And as regards Israel, you remember in the month of June, the year 2025, there was the 12-day war. And that war, in my view, has never been concluded. There was a very loose agreement, which was midwifed by the United States of America, and there is an armistice of sorts. But technically, Iran and Israel are at war. There is a younger population of Iranians who think that their country should be administered differently. Their economic problems, the remnants of the Pahlavi regime, and we are being told that one of the sons of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi is actually one of the prime movers of the demonstrations that are taking place in Iran now. Whether true or not, we do not know. We are being told that the Israelis are also somehow exercising some control via an invisible hand. We are told that the Americans are also present, and in the case of the Americans, they cannot escape indictment because their President Trump is saying, you touch any of the demonstrators and we are locked and ready to bomb you. So that is the situation in which Iran finds herself, and as we speak now, they are on high military alert. I know many commentators take the view that what happened in Caracas cannot happen in Tehran. But even if it is not an exact replica of what happened in Caracas, the Americans are capable of entering into that space and creating a vacuum, therefore. And if a vacuum is created, then what will ensue is chaos, and we don't have to look far. When Saddam Hussein was eliminated in Iraq, you've never seen Iraq go back to factory setting, if one may use that metaphor. So Iran finds herself in a very difficult situation because of a combination of legitimate domestic problems, a constitutional crisis, and external problems, which all conjoined only spell one word: danger. You know, whenever you see a country going through a crisis of the kind that we see in Iran, it means that institutions are no longer responding to the needs of the people. So as it is now, there is appetite for change. For some people, there's even nostalgia for the old regime, which is very human. And all these factors then legitimize and justify the kind of calls that we see from the United States of America that this is a tired administration. And of course, the word that the United States of America and Western Europe always use is democracy, a one-size-fits-all Eurocentric, Americocentric model of governance. And the younger generation are responding to this rhetoric. And I hear some of them saying, what we want is change. We'll deal with what change brings later. A dangerous thing to say, because history is consistent in telling us that when you make change and that change is not orderly, restoring order can take time. But that is an intellectual debate which does not respond with real politique. Real politique is that the Americans would want to see a totally different administration in Tehran. The Israelis would want to see a totally different administration in Tehran, and for specific reason. During the 12-day war, for the first time in an impactful way, a missile landed in Tel Aviv from Tehran. Missiles supposedly supplied from Tehran emanated from Yemen. So in the context of geopolitics, Israel sees Iran as the only viable threat, which is so close to nuclear capability, and that if you neutralize this regime, then you kill that possibility. And remember that the Americans also bombed some of the facilities, and they think that this is an unfinished business. So when they talk about regime change, they also want to finish the unfinished business. And from where I sit, that unfinished business started in 1979 with the humiliation of the United States of America, and it must be concluded. Iran, the Ayatollahs must be humiliated. American administration, the presidents notwithstanding, has a long memory. And they remember 1979. You know, when one looks at Iran and the rhetoric of Iran, you know, Iran is one of the few countries which believes that the Israeli, what they call the Zionist regime, must be swept off the surface of this earth. There is not a single country that uses that kind of rhetoric as regards the state of Israel. But one can never say never. In the history of the world, the worst of enemies have sometimes become allies for the sake of either a short-term agenda or a long-term agenda. And who knows that even as between Iran and Israel, there may come into place administrators or administration that see the bigger picture and recognize that for the sake of peace and relative stability, they ought to have a détente or a rapprochement, and that is what will serve the both of them, because there is also wariness of war. The Israelis are wary of war. The Iranians also want an economy that is vibrant and thriving. And that can only be achieved in the absence of conflict. So one can foresee a situation where in future there may be some kind of very structured relationship between Iran and Israel and the United States of America. And it is in this context that I understand the willingness of the Iranians on different occasions to enter into an arrangement as regards their nuclear capability, and to convince both the West and the West, to include the United States of America, that our enrichment of uranium is not for military purposes, but for civilian purposes. The regime change in Iran is going to be impactful in the region. I think as regards Yemen and the Houthis, particularly in Yemen, their big underwriters have been the Iranians. As we know now, the Saudis are beginning to gain ground in that part of the world. And I think if the regime changes in Iran, then the supply of weapons will be cut, and the Houthis will not have the capacity or the ability to deal with the Saudis or any other perceived enemies in the manner that they have been. And they will have no bullets in quantities that they need. They'll not have the missiles in the quantity that they need. And they would very easily be subdued by the combined force of the Saudis and the Israelis. So it would change that situation very dramatically. Indeed, even as I speak, the situation in Yemen is changing. The ease with which the Saudis have been gaining territory and the ease with which you can see things happening in the favor of the Saudis is indicative of the fact that something is not happening, and that supplies from Iran are not happening as they used to the Houthis in Yemen. In all these things, Israel stands in a very unique position, unique in the sense that since the creation of the United Nations in 1945 and the coming into force of international instruments such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the Geneva Conventions of 1949, the institutions such as the ICC, the institutions such as the ICJ, Israel is the only country on earth that now operates outside of what is known as international law. They are not subject to it, not because they are exempted, but they simply believe that the state of Israel is unique and cannot be subject. So when all these happens, I think the Prime Minister of Israel and those who are in support of extremism in Israel will come and say, we told you, we are the chosen people. Whatever we do is what the law is. If indeed it happens, and it can, that the United States of America and Iran enter into an arrangement that then stabilizes their relationship, the Middle East will change. Because if you look at the Middle East now, nobody simply wants to speak against Israel. Look at all of them, the Saudis, the Egyptians, the Lebanese, the Jordanians. Nobody wants to speak against Israel. The only country that really raised its head and said, we cannot allow this to happen and we are going to do something about it, is Iran. So you take Iran out of the equation, then Israel rules the roost and does so in the manner that it prescribes and implements, and nobody can do anything about it. Look at Syria now. The leader is now doing what America wants him to do. And when the Israelis want to bomb, when the Americans want to bomb, they do it at will. Right now, as we speak in the Middle East, the Beirut government is already saying that we are moving south to disarm Hezbollah. And of course, the Jordanians have nothing to say. So eliminate Iran from the equation, Israel is the dominant power, doing what they want without consequence.